Those I quit videos aren't health updates. They're relapses disguised as decisions. And judging by the comments on last week's video, you guys saw right through it. So I'm ecstatic. And I want to say thank you to you because it was great to see in the comments that you had already set those videos aside and you weren't paying them any attention. So I like the fact that we get it. We aren't buying the fear narrative that's presented in those videos. Now, you guys know that just because someone understands carnivore and doesn't mean that they are going to be able to stick to it. And so it doesn't mean that the plan itself was broken. It usually means that the person is going to had fallen for some kind of trap, which there are traps all around us. And if we don't understand that those traps are everywhere, we will step on one. So there was a lot of stuff in that video that I wanted to go into more detail about, but YouTube. So I decided to wait till today's live stream to go really in depth on some of the things that I think would have helped you to even better understand what I was talking about. I want to go through the the stuff that's going to make sure that when you try to rebuild your body, and so that renovation that I was talking about, I want you to actually complete the project that you've started. Too many times we start to heal, we start doing the things that we think are going to be good for us, but because we're doing a diet that is in the standard American diet world, it doesn't work. And we just can't complete it because we're still being triggered. So today we're going to go deeper into the 20-year rebuild process that I mentioned, because if we understand that timeline, then that's the difference between staying on course and not, right? If you don't understand that timeline, you are going to be impatient and you're not going to be able to stick with it. We're going to talk about the several dopamine traps. We need to understand why reintroducing vegetation often triggers a biological response that pushes us to chase sugar. And we are also going to talk about what real sustainability looks like. I want you guys to be so confident in what you're doing that you don't worry about sliding back to where you started. And I did that several times, back to where I started and heavier than I was when I first started, so many times, which is very, very discouraging. And it makes you feel like what you're doing just doesn't make any sense. So, Wellness Warriors, I want us to get started with this. And the first thing we're going to look at is the 20 years, because I think that was the piece of information that shocked the most people. The idea that I have to do 20 years before I've rebuilt my body had a lot of people questioning if that could be accurate. And it also opens up a question that I hadn't really thought about until I started reading your comments, which is this idea that, well, what happens if 5 years in, I eat something that's off plan? What happens? Right? Like, it, do I have to be perfect for 2 decades to get my body back? So I want to talk about this because if you eat one wrong thing, is that really the be all end all? Like, is that, and I want to clear this up because I don't want you to be afraid of doing what's good for you. And, but if we don't talk about it, you will be afraid because you're going to, and when we're afraid, we make mistakes. Let's be clear about that. Anytime you've ever been afraid of anything, if you stop and think about it, what happened? Somewhere along the line, you made a mistake. So our body rebuilds itself at different speeds. So different parts of the body rebuild at different speeds. And it only makes sense. Our body can't just snap its fingers and replace us. That just it wouldn't be able to do that. So for example, so a lot of people ask me, well, what proof do you have of this and where are you getting this information from? It's biology. The lining of our gut is replaced every few days. Why? That's the barrier between the outside world and our body. So if you don't know this already, I want to give you a little bit of what I learned. I can't remember which doctor talked about this. I wish I could right now, but I've learned so much of this stuff over so many years that sometimes it's hard for me to remember specifically who said it. But if you go to a biology book, you can look this up. Between your mouth all the way through to the other end is outside of your body. The same way that skin protects us from the outside world, the lining of our mouth through to the other end protects us from the outside world because food is the outside world. And so those cells have to be robust. They have to be, especially because they are filtering the food away from anything else that could have been on the food. Remember, back in the day, we used to pick things off the floor because we would take an animal down and then pick it up off the floor and eat it. So whatever happened to be on the floor, we would also be getting some of that into us, whether that was whatever it was, whatever was on the ground was also being eaten. Our body needed a very robust system to filter. And that means that those cells must be top shape, tip top. So every few days, those cells are replaced. This, and then the next, like if you want to go like medium, every 3 months ish, you have completely new blood cells in your body. Right? So if we stop and think about it, in the course of days, our lining of our body, of our intestinal tract replaced. In the course of months, we have completely turned over the blood cells in our body. But it takes 6 to 12 months, so almost a year, for example, to turn over the cells in our liver, right? Or other internal organs that do a bit more, right? Like, and are more, I guess, dense and intense, right? So they take up to a year. But then we have core structures like our bones that take 10-ish years, our heart, our brain that take up to 20. Why? These structures are so important and core to who we are. Can you imagine if your brain cells were turning over faster? Like it is so core to who we are. There's even parts of our brains, and I don't want to freak you guys out, but I'm not going to do that. But it takes a long time. Some parts even longer than 20. I'll just say it like that. I'm not going to say how long. You can look it up if you really want to know. My point is not that. It wouldn't make sense for our brain cells to turn over in a year, right? Like it's where it holds all the data of who we are. That only makes sense to me. And maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Maybe I'm not really, but in my mind, that only makes sense to me. The point isn't that. Yes, different scientists have looked at this information and from what they've gathered, and it doesn't mean that they have it perfect. That's probably why every time I check, I see more stuff and I can find more information because we're constantly doing research, right? But from what they figured out, up to 20 plus years to rebuild a complete body. And I'm assuming that when you're younger, some of these things might even be being built even faster because you're growing. And so, but I mean, is it rebuilding or is it adding to? Again, the structures are getting bigger. So maybe still it makes sense that this is the 20 years because by the time we are in our 20s, that fusion at the top of our head happens, right? And we're at our maximum height and all that stuff. And then the rebuild is just continuing forward. So I hope that that answers that was a big question that I got. People were super confused and not truly understanding how could it be that we can't heal ourselves in less than 20 years. But if your body is still renovating and right, it only makes sense that you can't have healed because did all of my internal organs and especially the heart, the brain, my bones, which can have other kinds of damage, have they been healed? Like the plaquing, the cancers, has my body had time to go in and fix those things? And clearly, from that data, we would see that the answer had to be no. So I want us to think about this like weight loss. That's the thing we can see from outside, right? The paint on the house. maybe the new windows. That's the weight loss part of the story. It looks great from the street, but if you haven't inside the house replaced any broken structures, right? Like, so we put in the nice new steel beams, replacing the ones that were rusted, that was holding up the building, right? If you haven't done that, then you don't have a completely structurally sound house. And clearly that would take years to do, right? Because if I take out a supporting beam, I need to shore it up with maybe some wood or something while I'm replacing that beam. How many months would that take? And then, oh, there's another beam over there, or a cross beam, or like if you stop and think about it, one person trying to do that work, it would take a heck of a long time. And we are all by ourselves trying to rebuild this structure. So the mistake that I think that I saw being made in those videos was that they're looking at the nicely repainted house with the beautiful windows and assuming, without going inside the house, that it was solid on the inside, right? And at that point, they also took some kind of interesting decision that says that, well, then what I'm doing might not matter. Now, again, there's more to the story, so I'm not going to go there yet. But I want us to understand that every once in a while, we make the mistake, if we listen to the mainstream, of believing that wood can be as structurally strong as steel. There are some scenarios where wood makes sense, but we can't compare them and say that they're the same. And in this analogy that I'm making, steel beams would be meat, fish, poultry, eggs, whereas wooden structures would be any vegetation. And sometimes we will use vegetation because it's cheaper and easier to get your hands on. And, like when we have a huge family to feed, we think this is saving us something. I'm going to show you later why it's not, but we think that that's a mistake, right? I want us to understand that you cannot support a skyscraper with wood, like strictly wood. A skyscraper, and I would not be comfortable going into that building, right? When you put carbohydrates where steel should be, right? Where protein should be, you are weakening the structures of your body. And so think of dietary patterns where the majority of what you are eating is carbohydrate. The standard American diet, for example, the majority of what you're eating is carbohydrate. And then we make the mistake of not understanding, what does our body do when carbohydrate and protein come in at the same time? When carbohydrate and fat comes in at the same time, what does our body do with the protein and fat that it could have used to build us, to heal us? If carbohydrates come in, it causes a problem, right? Our insulin rises and fat storage is triggered. We are causing the walls of our buildings to crack, the pipes to leak, right? The wiring is shorting out, and our body is in trouble. We end up with cravings because if you are carnivore and have even small amounts of carbohydrates come in, your body is going to react. You're going to have gut issues because you haven't had carbohydrates in a long time. So again, those linings turn over every few days. If I go a month or 2 or 8 without having any carbohydrates, and then I reintroduce them, what's happening? Right? We need to think about that. And that's, again, it's basic biology. If I've gone months without eating any vegetation, and then all of a sudden I have some, what happens to my insulin? Right? If we try to force our body to accept carbohydrates when it's asking for protein and fat, we create problems. So I want us to understand that this isn't a mystery. It's biology. You can't cheat your own physiology. Like, your body is going to do what it's supposed to do, what it is knows is right to do with whatever you eat, it's going to do that. And if you stop building with the materials that it's looking for, the structurally sound ones, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and you go back to building with carbohydrates, right? The fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, um, plants, so let's say salads and all. When you go back to eating those things, there's going to be an impact on the structural integrity of what you're building. That's just guaranteed. It's going to change. So I want you guys to think about what's been going on with you in the past, you know, few weeks, months. Have you noticed that even though your weight is good, that maybe you tried to reintroduce something and now you're starting to feel like it's just not working for you? Like, let me know, because if this is something that's going on, you might notice it in your energy changing. You might notice it in your skin, like things that maybe you had already corrected, your skin problems are coming back. Maybe it's even psychological, like you have less patience again, or your moods are swinging again, or if you had other mental health struggles, that they are back. Because if these things are happening, that's a sign from your body telling you, hey, the food changes that you're making are not working for me, right? Please do something about it. And I want us to understand that the problem isn't strictly that you're going to have a skin issue or fall back, because we can, again, we can correct these things, go back to eating properly, and your body will go back to building you properly again. And this is why I'm saying to you that one problem, one mistake is not the be all end all, crashing everything that you've worked on. Yes, it will pause you for a little bit. But if you notice it, you can step in and correct it. The bigger issue that I want us to think about is the 50 years of programming that we have lived since companies have figured out that the stuff that they use to make this stuff, this stuff, and even these things that are supposed to be healthy for us, but all of this stuff that they figured out that they can use really cheap ingredients and make a lot of money telling us that that is food. And the problem there is, in order to get us to really chase that stuff, healthy fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, keep our body focused enough on carbohydrates that when we see this used to get me, Wellness Warrior. This stuff used to get me. I would eat the heck out of chocolate on a daily basis with my weight being so high, knowing that I should not be eating that, but compelled to eat it. And we don't realize that every expert has told us at one point or another that a good snack in the middle of the day, if you want to keep yourself on the healthy path, is to grab some fruit or fiber containing vegetable, and those healthy carbohydrates. If you eat the healthy carbs, you're going to be doing yourself a favor. And so you have 50 years of training where you aren't reaching for the fruit, the vegetables, the carrot sticks, the celery sticks, um, all that good stuff that are still great on a keto diet. Celery sticks are fine. Some broccoli, raw broccoli heads are fine. They are fine on. You aren't reaching them because you want to cheat, Wellness Warrior. You're following orders. And that's the lie. In a biological renovation, vegetation is more of a demolition wrecking ball than it is part of a repair kit, right? So the reason that we need to keep that in mind and look at it a little bit more closely, right? Is because if I don't get that, when I notice a skin something, I'm like, oh yeah, blueberries, where I was told blueberries would heal, or when I'm feeling a little sluggish, right? Like your gut issues make you think about reintroducing spinach and kale and whole grains because you think you need them to fix constipation or bloating or all the things that we've been told will help us. Like these vegetations will help us be regular. And we've all lived that moment where we can't go and we feel horrible and all we want is a release and we eat the thing, not realizing. And I learned this in I was searching for something online about what happens in your gut when you eat. So I can't remember exactly what I was looking for, but I found a chapter in a textbook. And again, this is back when I was doing the research before I was making videos. Today, I know to bookmark these things and to save them. So I was never able to find this chapter reference again. But the chapter reference I found taught me that your stomach is actually like checking how much carbohydrate is coming in. And when you get around 5-ish grams, which coincidentally is the amount that your body has in its blood system at any particular moment in time, and this chapter explained how when your stomach quantifies that about 5-ish grams of carbohydrates came in, it starts quickly passing the contents of your stomach through, basically triggering bathrooming. Why? To get this excessive amounts of carbohydrates out of the system. So what I understood from that, this is my interpretation. I want to make sure I'm doing that, making that very clear, not a doctor. This is how I interpreted that. I interpreted that to mean that because my body recognized that too much sugar was coming in, that is what was triggering the bathrooming, not the fiber, which I find really interesting because repeatedly we are told it's the fiber. So I did a little experiment, and this video I believe is still up on my channel. I can't remember the name of it right now because this is just coming to me right now, but maybe later on I'll try to link it in the description. I did a little experiment where I looked at foods containing very low carb counts and I compared because I was only willing to touch a food that had very low carb counts, by the way. That's why I did that. And then I compared like on that spectrum, the lowest carb count things, how much fiber they had, did they send me to the bathroom? And what I noticed is that it was the amount of carb that played a bigger role in whether I ran to the bathroom than how much fiber was in whatever I was eating. So low carb count, high fiber didn't make me run to the bathroom. Low fiber, high carb count, higher because I did not put myself in a position to get out of my ketogenic state. I was in keto at that time. Sent me to the bathroom. What did that help me to understand? It's more about the carb count. But yet we are constantly told, no, it's the fiber. We, I, take from that what you will take from it, Wellness Warrior. Those we are it's okay. If you reintroduce berries or other super veggies because you want to heal your skin because of those antioxidants and phytonutrients, I want to again point out that I've not been able to heal my skin while I was eating vegetation. As I decreased the vegetation in my diet, my skin got better and better. Going to a carnivore state, which is where I sit right now, I have had the least amount of rashes that I've ever had. And a rash that my dermatologist told me was never going away. I had to learn to live with it. Those were her words. You know, you put the cream and you keep it clean as possible and you just get on with life. That's what she told me is gone. It actually was to a point where it was hardly noticeable while I was doing keto. When I went very low carb keto, where I was only having avocado once a week and olives once a week, it was almost invisible. And when I finally took the vegetation, so those two fruits out of my diet and all spices, do not see any signs of that rash at all. Completely gone. That's my experience. I'm sharing it with you because I want you, for people especially who have skin issues or people that have like lingering things, we are often told, oh, but it's because you don't have enough phytonutrients. Phytonutrient, if you actually look up the definition of phytonutrients, what you will find is that it will tell you phytonutrients is another word for phytochemicals, which is just the word for chemicals in plants. These are not healthy things specifically, Wellness Warrior, but they're presented to us as if they are. A phytochemical is a chemical, period. These phytochemicals, for a lot of them, are the things that make up medications that we take. Just for us to think about that. And oftentimes we have reactions to medications, which are just concentrations of stuff found in plants. And we have reactions. I know I had loads of reactions to medications to the point where what it was supposed to be trying to solve wasn't worth it to me to take this medication because it was causing way more problems than it was helping me. And that was from multiple different things that I was trying to solve. So just again, putting the idea out there for us to think about what is taking that fruit, vegetable, legume, whatever it is that they told you to eat to solve that rash actually helping you? Or are you seeing more repercussions? And the only way you're going to know that is by checking. You can't know if you don't check. And most of us just believe because 50 years of programming telling us that this is reality, we just believe. Sometimes we're reintroducing things like sweet potatoes, so like starches like sweet potatoes, oatmeal, um, rice, even pasta, because we feel like we need the starch because we're tired and we need energy, right? And we think if we do the slow burning carbs, we're going to do better for ourselves. All of these things are just ways to get us to keep our brain trained on this stuff. And if we don't know that, we fall for it. But the reality is that reintroducing an irritant is a problem. Reintroducing carbs in a system that we had taken that's a problem. Or even if you are keto, but adding so much carb back in that you're getting kicked out is a problem. Because the system that you have solved, like your system that you corrected, right, was out of that inflammation problem, first of all, or because again, those are one of the fast correcting things that can happen, right? The inflammation coming down. We lose so much water weight in that first month. Because why? Because one of the first things that gets healed us on the path to healing. I don't know if we're completely healed, even when it comes to inflammation. I don't think so. I had moments after I lost all my water weight, years after, where the smallest, when I was keto, getting like close to that 18 grams, which is what messed with me. So getting like close to that 18 grams, I would have inflammation, feeling problems again, or rashy things happening again. Eating something that I didn't know had a nightshade in it would give me those joint pains again. So can I really say that it's healed? I don't think we can, but it's improved so much that you feel amazing and you can move forward, right? So if we understand that this is a biological hijack, a biological hijack that's happening, then whether it's a healthy whole grain or it's a medicinal piece of vegetation, a fruit, a vegetable, or whatever, the body registers it as carbohydrates. And inflammation could be resparked, and storage could be like your body could be back in storage mode because that's what it does when it has a lot of sugar come in, right? Sugar, carbohydrates, two words for the same stuff. We need to understand that. And we also need to know that adding fiber to a gut that's trying to heal, Lee from Kent Carnivore talked about this, that he would be eating the veg that they told him to eat. They told him it would help him, and he would be doubled over in pain. And we need to understand that you're passing fiber through a healed gut, right? Let's say, because again, it only takes a few days for your gut to heal. It's like if we're scrubbing the sides of our gut, right? He would be doubled over in pain when he tried to eat the vegetation after fasting for a few days and doing things to help himself. And then he'd try to go back being good, right? Doing what they told him. And of course, since it only takes a few days to heal, his internals and it would start again. And we don't get it because we don't understand how the body repairs. So that fiber isn't cleaning you out, it is making problems. And then the carbs that come along with those vegetables, especially if you, like I said, if you've been keto long enough or carnivore long enough, and then you bring something in that's just outside that zone, that now it gets you to be chasing, even if we're talking about savory tasting things, they are still high enough in carbohydrates when those carbs break down to get your brain chasing and get your body storing, and you're craving again, and you're out of control, and you end up blaming yourself, right? Because this is medicinal, so it has to be me. Or if you're in the position of these influencers who quite understand how the body works, and maybe having a little bit of dissonance going on because they don't really feel right about, or they're having a hard time recognizing they made a mistake. Let me put it like that. If you have a hard time recognizing that reintroducing this thing was a mistake, you might actually tell yourself that my body needs this stuff. It's why it's pulling me to eat it excessively. But I want us all to think about something. When we started keto or carnivore, and we were eating that healthy, low carb vegetation, and we were staying under our 20, and especially when we were really, really focused on staying under that 20, and we could feel that we were in a ketogenic state because we were sleeping well, thinking clearly, our issues were clearing up, we had energy, we didn't have mood swings anymore if we were ladies or even men. Some men had talked about having mood swings. When you had patience with your kids, when all the things were pointing to the direction that you had stuff under control, you did not feel chasey towards meat or fish or poultry or eggs. You were happy to eat your meal, but you didn't feel chasey. You weren't compelled to eat. When you were hungry, you felt like eating. You didn't feel chasey towards the vegetation either. Like when you were in that ketogenic zone and your body was fine, you weren't compelled to eat. When you were hungry, you ate. Period. That's what was going on. And Wellness Warrior, I need us all to understand that if you reintroduce something and are chasing, your cravings have been turned back on, and we are no longer talking about a healthy something happening here. We are actually talking about a problem that you've been pulled back into by listening to that conventional wisdom that's trying to tell you that the reason that your skin isn't healed yet, or whatever it is that you're trying to figure out isn't healed yet, has to be about not eating vegetation, right? We need to understand that now you are actively in a relapse. That's problematic. right? That's hugely problematic, right? If you want your healthy lifestyle to be sustainable, which means that you're eating real food, whether it's meat, fish, post. So let me be clear and clarify. My definition of real food is actually meat, fish, poultry, eggs. That is real food. I do understand that some people will put some entertainment on their plate, which are vegetation foods. I'm encouraging everyone, if you are putting vegetation foods, so basically, if you're doing a keto lifestyle, understand that the food on your plate that is food is meat, fish, poultry, eggs. Yes, I get it. You're putting vegetation on your plate. See it for what it is. If you are eating and you are only going to finish one thing on that plate, make sure it's the meat, fish, poultry, eggs. I've seen too often people allow their children to eat the vegetation and leave back the meat. That is a dangerous thing to allow our children to learn to do. We are not helping them to understand what is actually food. So I want you to be the good example to your kids. If I understand that the meat, fish, poultry, eggs on my plate is what's actually food, I will not make the mistake of only eating the fun stuff and leaving the unhealthy stuff on my plate. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. And leaving the healthy stuff, sorry, on my plate. I want you to understand that. So if we let's okay, let's move forward. I'm gonna move forward because we need to realize that if I'm doing a carnivore lifestyle, let's go back to the analogy. That would be like building a skyscraper, right? Because if I'm doing a carnivore lifestyle, I'm using only the best quality ingredients for my body. So meat, fish, poultry, that I'm using steel beams. All of the internal structure is steel beams, right? Yes, there's going to be some wood for the and maybe some drywall and all the other things, but not for the core structures. Those core structures are going to be solid. I'm encouraging every one of you not to live in a shack. That's the standard American diet where you're building your body mostly on carbohydrates and processed stupidity. Do not build your body with garbage. If you do that, it's going to fall down, it's going to fall apart, it's not going to be good. Now, am I saying that everybody needs to be carnivore? No, I am not. Because you theoretically could be living in a residential home where you have some steel beams, some wooden beams where it makes sense. I know that the header in my house, so there's a few headers that I have in my house, are actually wood. That is totally fine. They are thick, chunky, beefy wood beams, but there are metal poles holding up certain parts of my house. I saw the renovation. I saw them there. So I know that they're there. You need to make sure that you have metal poles where you need to have metal poles, which goes back to my conversation with all of you, 20 years, Wellness Warrior. And the amount of carbohydrate coming in determines in that renovation how much of what you're building is still having carbohydrates in places that we don't particularly want carbohydrates. Standard diet is all over you, all over the place in high percentages. Keto diet, it's still all over you, but in lower percentages. Carnivore, if you're doing it right, so it's not there. Understand what you're doing so that you make the best decision. Every single bite of food that you take is the raw material your body uses to build its cells. That is it. There's no if, ands, or buts, right? If you don't eat toxins, there's no toxins to clean up, right? Which suggests that the strongest, fastest way to stabilize your body is to focus your attention on eating real food, meat, fish, poultry, eggs. This is why I decided to become carnivore, because I finally understood that. And don't it wasn't fast. It took me years to get to this place, but now that I'm here, I get it. And I plan to stay here because it makes the most sense. But if you are in a scenario where you've tried out carnivore and for whatever reason you are struggling, I would really encourage you, rather than going back to standard diet, which is what a lot of people, I don't get that part, but I think part of the reason that that might happen, so let me just I think part of the reason that that might happen is that some people go straight from standard American diet to carnivore. First, I want to say, please don't do that. I don't think that most people actually understand what a huge jump that is, and therefore what you're risking making such a huge jump. You're taking your body from a position where it had not just a lot of carbohydrates coming in, but a lot of other toxins. Because as I keep pointing out, I keep saying it, but I want to be more specific here. There are other things in vegetation than sugar. As I mentioned, they use vegetation to create certain medications, right? So they're taking out specifics from plants to try to treat things in us. Therefore, if you've read the book from Sally Norton about oxalate dumping, I was doing a bit of research and realized that there are other things that we can technically like dump. And I'm not going to go into a list because it's irrelevant. The problem that I understood by reading more about like what happens when you take something out of your diet is that, and then reintroduce it, because that's the problem that Sally Norton helped us to truly see. If you take things away, your body, once you don't have them there, might just start getting rid of it. You're having a dump, and that can be crazy, painful to live through. But B, maybe you don't have that issue happen, but then if you touch the thing again, you can bring back those oxalates and then all of a sudden have a dump. So I have noticed that for everyone I spoke to who didn't have dumps, they went through the process slowly. Where people that's rushed seem to have a bit more trouble with dumping. This is not an experiment. This is me just paying attention to the comments and the people that I've been able to speak to and seeing the pattern. But I have no research to back this up. I'm still encouraging you that after living, in my case, 40, I think it was 43, 46 years of eating completely wrong and starting to do it right. It didn't take me long to be on that healing path and to be able to stay there and to get to where I am today. It's been 7.5, maybe even 7.75 years. Yeah, 7.75 years that I'm in this position that I'm in right now. There's no rush. Wellness warrior is the point I'm making. There's no rush. So there's a rush, but there's no rush. Let me put it like that. Yes, you want to start and be on track as soon as possible. However, don't go from standard diet to carnivore and risk dumping and risk, and it might not just be oxalate. Like I said, there's other toxins that you risk dumping that can put your body in a state of chaos, but also make you afraid that this is not sustainable. If you do keto first, you give your body a chance to get used to having less carbohydrate. You give your body a chance to get into ketosis. You give your body a chance to heal a bunch of stuff. And you give yourself a chance to see what it is like to live life eating this way, which I think is the biggest reason that I want all of you to consider what I'm saying. It's interesting to try to go out with other people when they don't eat like you do. The choices at restaurants cater to the majority of people, not to the minority. And so it's still trickier for Pat and I when we go out to eat, that we need to figure out a way to eat on plan around people. Well, not when we're by ourselves, but when we're eating out with friends and family and whatever, to figure out a way to eat on plan with them, right? And so we need to be really strict about which restaurants we will go to, or if we are going to a restaurant where we can't eat, we just don't eat. But it's kind of awkward if there's a smaller group. If it's a bigger group, it's okay. But in smaller groups, yeah, you just want to be able to either eat the meal or go out a different way. So I definitely want you guys to think about the fact that the choices you make in the diet and the path you do to get to carnivore matter, because I don't think it's fair for everyone to think, first of all, that keto and carnivore is, despite, is easy. Okay. So, and again, it's simple to do. There's only really one rule. When you're doing keto, you're keeping your carbohydrates under 20. When you're doing carnivore, you're putting down vegetation. So there really is, and you're only one rule theoretically, but yet at the same time, there are tricky nuances that can come in, because theoretically, I could do a keto diet eating only chips as long as I make sure that I always eat chips less than 20 grams, or right? Theoretically, I could do that. I could eat keto and eat these kind of stupid things, right? And theoretically, I could do that. But might that cause me to chase? Yes, because our brain sensing sweet is another thing that causes insulin to rise and can keep your body in a bad position. There's too many variables that we don't understand fully, because a lot of the people talking about this stuff are not necessarily trying to understand it from all the different angles, and therefore are not helping us to understand all the different things that we need to understand to get why does it work or why does it not work. That is hugely important. If you're doing carnivore and you don't touch any plants, but you're still drinking milk, for example, again, the amount of carbohydrate coming in, still enough to cause chasing, still the casomorphins in there, still enough to cause chasing. There's too many elements that people don't talk about that could be causing problems. So I want us to really make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to do to build a solid, safe, structurally sound body, right? And not live in a shack, because living in a shack is going to mean that life isn't fun. You're constantly repairing things, right? You're from the outside, you might be thin. There's a lot of people that are thin on the outside and fat on the inside because their internals are just not functional and problematic. And there are a lot of people that are overweight and their internals are amazing because their fat cells are doing what they're supposed to do, taking those toxins and putting them in storage. And as long as your fat cells are doing internally, you could be absolutely healthy. Does that mean that your body is in the best position it could possibly be in? No, because you still have too much energy on you, right? That excess of energy that you're not getting access to. And the unfortunate truth is, well, maybe for not for everyone. I'm not going to say that's for everyone. Is it possible that you could go through your entire life and never have any other medical concern than the weight, that your internals stay pristine? I think it's theoretically possible, especially if the weight isn't excessive. So you might be overweight, but it's not excessive and your body is managing well by putting things in fat storage. That's possible. So I'm not going to say that it isn't. I honestly feel like the important thing here is that you feel comfortable in your body. So you have energy, you think clearly, all the things, right? Your skin is good and what. So yes, I'm going to say that is possible. But ultimately, a lot of people want the weight to be under control too. And if that's what you're looking for, I'm letting you know that's part of the issue, right? So we can address it by understanding what's happening. So, what else do I want to say here? I definitely, let's see. So if you're planning to transition one way or the other, if you're going from standard diet, please do keto first. If you're trying to transition from keto to carnivore, And maybe you've never done it before and you just want to try it out to see what might that be like. How would it feel to be in that state? My suggestion to you is try it out. Like there's nothing wrong with starting a keto lifestyle to see how you feel, to see what works, I feel like a carnivore lifestyle, sorry. See how it works, see how it feels. The thing that I will say though is let yourself pay attention to how you feel long term and in the because I think if you do it and then whenever you have to go out, you go back to eating keto because that's easier. Again, I do think that most people make the mistake of thinking that they can half do any of these diets. If you're keto, but when you go out, you eat normally, the toxins coming in, the high carb coming in, will be messing with you and causing issues. And then those are the times where I find people complaining about being chasey and things not going well. And I feel like it's the same thing when you will be um, doing carnivore and then like when you or whenever you go out, you try to be keto, those carbs coming in will mess with you and make you feel chasey. So we really do need to understand that this is about making a decision. We are trying to heal our body. We've got this 20-year cycle that we're in, and anything that causes my body to struggle is the issue. It doesn't matter that it was a small amount of carb. What matters is how my body reacts to it and therefore what my body does next. Because even though, let's say, 5 grams of carbs is not a big deal to this person doing keto, if today I would eat 5 grams of carbs in a meal, I'm very likely going to be chasey. My insulin would have risen dramatically. That's why I would be chasey. Right, the dopamine would be going. Like, why? Because on a daily basis, I don't get 5 grams of carbohydrates. I need to be aware that if I, for some reason, were to eat something that has more carb, that I'm going to be in a problem, right? Like my brain and my body's going to be like, what are you doing? That's not typical for us. It doesn't mean that I won't be able to recover from it, but it will impact me. So I want all of us to understand that keto isn't a problem unless, from a carnivore's perspective, we're using it as an excuse to eat something that we wouldn't normally eat, right? And carnivore isn't, sorry, and even like if I'm on keto, eating a different kind of vegetation isn't necessarily a problem unless I'm using it as an excuse to eat off plant. So, right, so like this idea that I can touch this thing a little bit is not a problem unless you're actually allowing yourself to be off plan, knowing it's like, so kind of knowingly know I'm putting myself over the number and giving myself some kind of reason that I think is okay because this doctor or nutrition or whatever, this professional has told me, oh, but it's going to heal this thing, even though I know for how my body currently functions, it's going to cause a different kind of problem for me. I think for me, this has been always a much more important piece of information to pay attention to, just because I grew up reacting to medications so dramatically, even something as simple as taking headache medication. I would like, it was 50-50 whether the headache would go away, but then I would be saddled with a upset stomach. I feel like when ingesting things causes us to just feel horrible and we were paying attention to it, then it we see the value in like being cautious about things that we keep in our diet. So before you think about changing from keto to carnivore or standard diet to keto or carnivore, like before you think about changing around your diet, I want you to look at the basic core things that could be causing you to struggle with your health, which a very basic one that, again, when I started keto, I was not aware of was electrolyte balance. I naturally added a bit more salt to my food because as I did keto, I felt like my food needed more salt. And I don't remember why, but very early on, I think I had seen a video. Very early on, I saw a video from Dr. Barry and Dr. Nicolandino. Nicolandino, I think was his name. That video I remember because they specifically called out the fact that we need more salt than we are taking in. And that gave me the confidence because I was finding my food did not taste like it had enough salt to increase the salt. And why was I hesitant? Because 50 years of programming had told me that we're not supposed to have too much salt and salt is bad and all the things. And then I find out from them, nope, no problem with taking salt. So I added more salt and I was so happy that I did because my food tasted better. But also, I feel like it helped me to regulate my electrolyte balance, which they had also talked about in the video. So most of us need something to help us regulate our electrolyte balance. For the longest time, that was all I was taking. And like extra salt was all I was doing to keep myself balanced. And it still is for the majority. I don't know if iodine counts as something that's an electrolyte or not, but I have added a bit of iodine and I have a video coming up because I feel like the majority of people taking iodine, from what I learned from Dr. Hampton, I have a video on my channel that I put up a few weeks ago, are overdoing their iodine. He pointed out some stuff, and when I went to do some research, like Lugol's iodine is extremely strong, and I don't think most people are aware that according to Dr. Hampton, we should only be taking like 500 micrograms maximum a day. That's maximum. And I feel like he's talking about people who are eating healthy. That's the max. So I don't know what it would be if you're still allowing carbohydrate in or too much carb. Like, but anyways, I'm just going from what he said, 500 max. But maybe that's for everybody. I don't know. We overdo that. So checking your electrolytes and making sure that you are balanced in what you're doing is extremely important. And then, are you under eating fat, which is another huge problem that I was guilty of. Although I had started eating the fat on my meat, I really wasn't paying enough attention to the fact that probably the amount of fat that comes on our meat is still not enough. And when I added a little extra fat to my meals, oh wow, did my health, again, I had more energy. My weight was like even, I had to, it helped me a lot. My weight got even better. It is crazy to me. My skin improved again. So many things got better. Most of us are under eating fat, and I figured out eventually that I was under eating protein. And so even though I was getting the amount that the calculator originally told me, I was able to up that even more. And so, and I learned that from, oh, what's that guy's name? I have a list of doctors that helped me out, and his name I should have on here because he was amazing. Because he really helped me, Dr. Lehman. He helped me to understand that I was not eating enough protein. I needed more protein in my diet. And he said that the guidelines that we have about protein only talk about the minimum viable amount, not the amount you need to be healthy. And when he said that, I bumped up my protein. And actually, it coincided with me having gone on a vacation. And on my vacation, I had eaten more protein and I came back having lost weight, even though like we barely did much. We just lounged around. And so it wasn't like I exercised the weight away, which I know a lot of people say, oh, but you did more. We really didn't. We really didn't. It was a nice, lazy vacation and came back later, even though I had eaten more. And that was the part that caught my attention. I ate 2 meals a day during that vacation, really fat heavy in the morning, in the, well, the brunch, because I knew that my dinner meals were going to be very lean because all the dinner meals were quite lean. So, and I was able to come back and having eaten more, so lost weight. So that was a really cool thing for me to figure out. Basically, wellness warrior, I want you to evaluate what you're doing. And if you need to adjust, I want you to change the things that make sense. So like if you're hungrier, focus on meat, fish, protein, meat, fish, poultry, eggs. And if you need to reduce things, pay attention to what you're reducing and why. But don't be fooled by the the mainstream idea that you need vegetation to heal a body that does best on meat, fish, poultry, and eggs. Because I really do feel like that's a that's a mistake. Um, we don't need to worry about being perfect. This is not about perfection. Sometimes I go out to eat and there's spices. Sometimes, even though I ask them just to cook me my piece of meat with butter and salt, sometimes I can just taste, they put something else on here. But even at that, I've never beat myself up for a restaurant not following my directions perfectly, right? But what I will never do, I tell them I want just the meat on my plate. That's it. That's all. What I never do is if they put something else on my plate because they're just stubborn and not listening, I don't eat it. Very recently, Pat and I went on a trip, and it was just an overnight, and we had scheduled a restaurant that we thought was going to fall in line with our way of eating. Pat's meal was fine. My meal, they decided to put barbecue sauce on my piece of meat, and then they finally said to us, "Well, we everything's marinated. We can't." Even though we had asked that question. What did I do that night? I didn't eat that meal. And I just didn't I took a little bit of Pat's meal, and but I didn't eat that meal. So we don't have to be in a problem because the world around us doesn't want to cooperate. You want to build a structure that can actually take you not just through the next 20 years of your renovation. You want it to take you through the next 30, 40, 50, however old you are, till the end of your time on this planet. You want to be in a body that you can do everything you want to do in, right? You want to have fun. You want to live life. You want to feel amazing. And the way you do it is by understanding these principles. So now that you know how important the foundation is, I'm going to encourage you to watch my video on fruit. I put that link in the description because I talk about why fruit, or at least modern fruit anyway, is not what you want to be eating. This nature's candy story they give us is just there to trip you up and cause problems for you because you think you're doing something good for your body and you really aren't. So that video is another one that you can watch after this one. So after it'll help you understand why you're just, again, taking a sledgehammer to your renovation. So click on that video after we finish having our chat, because we're going to chat now. So I want to look at, oh, I see there's a good amount of comments here, and I'm going to go through them. So I think you are the best of the carnivore influence. Oh, thank you so much, Lady Hawk. I appreciate that. And nice to have you in here. I do appreciate you. Thank you very much. Bry Biscuit is back again. It's nice to see you, Bry Biscuit. I'm glad that you were able to catch the live again. So I remember your name because it's a very interesting name. Thank you for being here. Let's see. We have Sue Jagger, who says, good morning. I'm going to try to go through as many of these as I can. I recently found your channel. So this is Lady Hawk again. And I think you are one of the best. Oh, okay. I do go through them. So if you put it in once, trust me, I will get to it. So for anyone else who's going to make some questions, if you have questions, I would love to answer some questions too. So if you have questions while I'm reading through these quickly, when I get to the questions, I will slow down and give you the best answer that I can possibly give you for the scenario that you're presenting to me. Fiber adds bulk to our stool and actually provokes constipation. Thank you, Lambs, for pointing that out. Yes, it is something that I've recently learned as part of the game they play with us, right? Hello, Mandel. How are you doing? Mandel Harvey is here. Muhammad Ali said, why would you feel left out because you couldn't eat milk and honey? Milk and honey is a laxative. I don't want that laxative. I like steak. Well, I never heard that from him, but that's cool to know. I mean, he was a very fit person, obviously being a boxer. I do feel like bodybuilders, boxers, like back in the day, they were on a good path until, of course, mainstream has even pushed them towards thinking that they need carbs to work out. And gosh, I watched a lot of bodybuilding channels where you see that silliness. And sometimes I watch it just because I'm so confused. But there are a few of them that are just kind of funny, and that's why I watch. But then there have the other ones like Keto Savage, who understands that it's healthy food that will help us to do better. And so I do like, I haven't watched a video from him in a long time though. Maybe I should check him out and see if he's still making videos. But it does help us to see that there are different things we can do. You go on to say, whenever I manipulate my body, I will use grapes to cycle my system impatiently. Whenever I felt like my turnover time is awkwardly long, not hungry for a day or something. When, sorry. So I feel like, again, we don't want to fall into the trap of believing that bathrooming on a certain schedule is better than my body being able to extract everything it's trying to extract out of what we eat. One of the things that I remember, and again, it was Dr. Barry, I believe, that put up a video about this because people were talking about constipation, etc. And he clarified constipation is when you have something to exit that is not exiting. But if you don't have something to exit, that's your body extracting what it needs to extract from your food. And when I started to listen to that, yeah, I mean, honestly, obviously not going daily, not even every other day. Your body doesn't need to eliminate before it's ready to eliminate. And so paying attention to your cycle might be more important than trying to force an elimination. As I said, if you eat carbs, yes, your body will eliminate. But now the question is why? Was it really finished with the healthier foods that you were eating that it was trying to process? Not likely. It's passing it through because it needs to pass it through. And so, is that really what we want to do to our body? Again, I feel like in this world, we have been taught that we are smarter than our body when we actually aren't. And this is, I guess the arrogance of getting smart. Like we think we know better on so many topics, but this is so complicated. I don't even believe that we know 1% of how this functions. I think we're less than 1%. 99 point some odd still that we don't understand, but we try to treat it like we know everything, right? That we're going to just push, push, push it, and we end up harming ourselves. You can also try magnesium citrate to get things going. That was for Mandel. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I haven't, like, the only thing I've done is salt and iodine, and I have no issues with bath. And so the time between bathrooming, much longer. And when I go, not an issue of problem for it to come out. So I feel like we need to try to trust our bodies sometimes too and see what would happen. Princess Bride, building up resistance to poison. Like a normal person that drinks, re- regurgitates and passes out while in that problem stays functioning. So sugar cravings are get scary, blood numbers too. Okay, I mean, obviously, yes, if we put our body in a problem, then our body's going to live that problem. It's important for us to understand that. You guys are talking to each other. Let's see. That's the body's response to eliminating a neurotoxin that happens acutely starting at the liver. I watched this in real time with my CG, continuous glucose monitor, which will stop all other priorities to keep your brain going. That's perfect. Thank you for sharing that, Bri Biscuit. I appreciate that. So Pauline Bajek, I hope I said that right. We all agree that you are the best. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I'm super happy that you believe that. I appreciate it. There's 4 or 5 other sources for magnesium. You can look at the benefits and negatives for each depending on your goals. Yeah, I don't take the reason I try not to take magnesium, and you should go back and check that video that I did with Dr. Hampton, because I asked him to give us food ways of getting magnesium. I think it was magnesium and something else, potassium maybe, I can't remember. But go back and check that video because I feel like when we take something man-made, we are trusting people that I'm not 100% sure we should be trusting them. I mean, I would love to be able to go and take a supplement and believe The only thing in that supplement is what they told us. But after what happened, for example, with Element, I just can't trust that they're doing what they say they're doing. And so everything that we can get with just food, we should try to. Even Lugol's not having dosing instructions on it bothers the heck out of me because I looked and looked and everybody had nothing but good things to say about Lugol's. I didn't find one thing that possibly could be negative. And then I find out that I was taking way too much because there's no dosing information on it. And so, I mean, a simple thing for them to do. Why isn't there dosing information? Well, what I found out from Dr. Hampton, if you overdo iodine, then you put yourself in a health problem. And so, are they kind of colluding? I don't know, but I do find it really frustrating. Really frustrating. Not to mention, by not knowing how much I could actually use. Do you know how many bottles of that stuff I went through? And probably if I was using it the way I was supposed to, I'd still be on the first bottle. I have gone through multiple bottles in a very short period of like, I don't know, I would say maybe 2 years. It is scary, but it's also amazing how well our body can manage even when we're doing something wrong. But that's why it's partially scary. Maybe had I not spoken to Dr. Hampton, I wouldn't have figured out the mistake I was making until I was actually in a problem. So it's super important for us to know what we're doing and to do it correctly. Thank you, Pauline. I appreciate you. Not sure if I said something to that one already. I'm Mike Jr.'s sister. Hey, he made me discover your channel, and I'm grateful. Hey, well, I like talking to Mike Jr., so Pauline, I'm nice to have you here too. Very, very happy to meet you. And it's very cool to know that talking about my channel has a new person come in, so that's very cool. I appreciate it. As a matter of fact, I would really appreciate from everybody here if you could share out this live stream or videos that you find of mine that you find interesting. I really would appreciate it. Apparently, that's how channels grow, and it's going to help me to reach more people, which I definitely want to do. My goal is to actively help 1,000 people to get out from under the hands of these companies that are taking their money and their health. And so if you could help me out with that, I truly, truly would appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys being here and talking to me, because this helps me to know that I'm giving some good information for people. So citrate doesn't bother my stomach, so take it. So I take it to mitigate exacerbation of kidney stones in my case. Okay, good to know. Um, I don't remember what kidney stones are made from, but I do kidney, gallbladder. Okay, no, those are different. I actually, one of the things that I find frustrating is a lot of people end up with gallbladder stones because of doing the low fat thing. It's another huge, like these things are so tightly connected, and doctors know this, and yet they don't tell people that you need some fat in your diet. Like, make sure you're eating fat daily. Like, even just that, the fact that we are told to get fat out of our diet, and then people live these painful gallstones because, of course, at some point, it's impossible to have zero fat. You would obviously be in a problem. And then when your body does need to try to get some fat, some bile, sorry, for processing, you're in pain because there's stones blocking the. It's a horrible scenario, Wellness Warrior, and for us that we don't understand that this is happening, really, really frustrating. Empty calories can work between meals in scarcity. We're getting fat off survival food. See the Egyptian plague at Passover, fattening the firstborn on survival food and effectively starve tribes. Start and effectively starve tribes. Okay. Um. Okay. Cool. Just saying, shouting out a good morning to everybody. Thank you. Okay. Yes, oxides. Oxalates maybe is generally the worst source. I'm not sure oxide. I'm not sure what that's about. Da da da. But I feel it's a conversation between you guys. More conversation. Strong. Okay. Are there any questions or comments for me? I might have to start asking for some QQQs. Um, Sufficient fat with your food also helps So that's, as Dr. Kilt says, lean meat is deadly. Really? He says that? Okay, that's interesting. Let's see. Um, I just want to mention to adjust the fat intake to have proper movements. So bowel movements. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I honestly feel like if you're eating, you want to have enough fat, not just for bowel movements, but we need to remember our body is made of fat. Every single cell in our body, including our brain, is made of fat. So not getting not only enough fat, but the right fat. We are animals. We need animal fat to rebuild ourselves, which is why focusing on meat, fish, poultry, and eggs is so important. So yeah, let's see. Yes, fat can absolutely help get things moving. So we have a lot of comments on are nuts a healthy choice on keto? My understanding from Dr. Georgia Ede, when we had a conversation, you guys can go check that video out. My understanding from her is that all seeds, so that would be grains, nuts, and seeds, all of them are the plant's baby, and therefore we should not be eating them because they will all have some level of toxin in them that will impact us. So Dr. Ede is very, very clear on that. And she also said if you can only afford to buy one um, macronutrients, right? If you could only afford to buy one, or so one food source, sorry, not one macronutrient. She pointed us towards animal protein. If you can buy only one thing, so that would be meat, fish, poultry, eggs. If you can only afford to buy one thing, whether it's vegetation or animal, she said buy animal protein. Processed food, buy animal protein. No matter how that other thing might look like a complete meal, she said buy animal protein. So those are two things I'm going to throw out there for you, because rather than having nuts, you could have a snack of eggs. You could have a snack of any kind of fish, any kind of meat, any kind of poultry, right? That would be better than having nuts. And that's what I've figured out for myself is that, or you could have any kind of low glycemic vegetation that's not a seed of the plant would be the step up from nuts and seed. Like, so, I mean, gosh, I have so many family members that eat nuts all the freaking time. It's so sad for me because I see them and it's like I can't say anything because, well, I've said and they just don't want to hear. So I don't say anything anymore because I've said it, you understand it, you're doing what you're going to do. But it's sad for me because I know that's one small change that they could make that would impact their health in a positive way. And I had learned that the hard way. I used to have cashews, and although physically I didn't see a repercussion that I could pinpoint, when I ate cashews, they were so carby to me that I started to taste them as sweet, and then I was chasing it. I couldn't just have a serving. I was like overdoing it. And but I noticed it and I was able to take them out of my diet. And I haven't had cashews in well over 2 years, I believe. Yeah, because when I started carnivore, I had already put the cashews down because I was like, this is not working. So I had put them down months before, maybe even more than months before that, but I'll say months before because I hadn't actually documented when that happened. Um, peristalsis does work if you're eating and drinking healthy. The gut may also require healing first, though. This is the myth of fiber, which can only be a possible corrective. It's not essential. I don't even think it's a possible corrective. I don't think the fiber is what's playing. Again, that's based on my own little N of one on my body. I feel like the carbs count made more of an impact than the fiber count. And I did my little test back when I was eating nuts. So it was different kinds of nuts, I believe. I don't think there was anything else in the things that I tried, but they were different kinds of nuts with different carb counts and fiber counts, and I compared them. Again, it's a good video to go check out. I'm gonna try to remember to link it afterwards. I ate keto for 14 years. Keto worked until it didn't anymore, and I finally switched to carnivore in March of this year, and I'll be doing carnivore the rest of my life. It's my key to full metabolic health. I wonder if there would have come a time where I might have done the same, like switched to carnivore because I felt keto wasn't working. But when I made the switch, I felt fine. I did it because I had an interview with Dr. Chafee and he explained some things to me and it just made sense what he was saying. And by looking at what he was saying after that video, because when I was editing it and rewatching it and verifying what he said in the video, I was just like, you know what? It makes sense. And so I switched. But I do wonder if I would have stayed the course with keto, because by that point, when he and I spoke, I was down to avocado and olive and a salad, very, very like every other week. I think I was having the salad. That was what I was down to. So and I had been doing that for about 2 years. So I did keto 3 years. I was eating like very, very low carb keto for 2 years. And now for the last almost 2 years, I've been carnivore. So I feel like maybe I would have gotten there at some point, but I don't know for sure. I might have stayed with those two little things and never changed it. So I don't know for sure. What kind of salt is best? How bad is the other kind? That's definitely something I'm confused about. Um, I know that there are a lot of people that talk about specific salts. I don't do that. The only thing I try to do is make sure I choose a salt that doesn't have like plastics in it. And I can't remember, I want to say it was Dr. Saladino had a video where he talked about different types of salt, like the plastic content. I think that it was the pink Himalayan salt that didn't have any plastics or just negative things in it. So I kept using that. I had I had just bought some sea salt. It's just still in my fridge, right in my cupboard, sorry, right now, because the sea salt he tested had plastics in it. And microplastics are not good because they mimic hormones, right? And I believe specifically they mimic female hormones, but men and women have all the hormones, right? It's just a matter of how much you have of what. And so because of that, I stopped using the sea salt. So let me just let's see here. Bride Biscuits, I use fasting to reset the microbiome. I just ended the 8-day fast recent. Oh, so that's cool. Um, oh, you're sorry. So this is John Traeger talking to Bride Biscuit. Yeah, I think yeah, it's cool. Like when you reset, so you don't eat, you fast. Anything that is any set of cells that rejuvenate within a short period of time, so like a week or so, you will get through a good portion of them. There are some cells that take a week or two. Even those, you'll get through a good portion of them, even if you've only done 5 days of fasting. Our body, something that Dr. Fung helped me to understand, is our body has the ability to get in there and clean up. And Dr. Ekberg talks about this too. Get in there and clean up more when you're not eating. So, like, if you are constantly eating, even the correction that you're trying to make will take longer because your body keeps having to pause to correct things. To process food. And then because renovation, so building new structures and rebuilding structures, etc., and processing food are both intensive energy wise, right? So your body has to choose which one it's doing. And when I say choose, it doesn't mean it stops at 100%, but it will completely severely ramp down body cleanup, so to give the energy to the to give the energy to your body's food processing. So it really does make a difference if you want to be able to, to have your body be as healthy as possible. Okay. Let's see here. Amanda says, consider the book The Iodine Crisis. Okay, thank you. I didn't have a book to read. The Iodine Crisis. I'm going to add that to my list. Why is? Did you read that? I'm kind of curious. Some women in the book required a lot more iodine. Don't know what's correct, but I was convinced they were trying to get it right. Okay, cool. Thank you, Mandel. I love when people give me things to look at because I can learn some new information, and I'm actually going to just buy it immediately. Okay, the book is purchased. Thank you very much. So you can look forward to me talking about that in a little while. So you use Redmond's? Yeah, I've heard a lot of different things. Dr. Bright and Dr. Brownstein are a wealth of information on iodine. I tried to find a place where Dr. Bright actually said how much iodine. I could not find it. But I don't know if Dr. Bright has a book. I was just checking on YouTube to see if she actually said how much iodine. So I might double check. And Dr. Brownstein, I'm not 100% sure, but I will double check. So those are two doctors that I don't particularly follow, but maybe I need to see if they have websites or YouTube channels or somewhere where I can follow them. And I don't have a pen to write down their names. I'll have to go back through the oh, maybe I can do it here. I'm just going to do everything here. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to open another tab and write it. Thank you very much for giving me these ideas. So we have Dr. Wright and Dr. Brownstein. I hope I'm saying that right. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much because that is extremely helpful. I healed my gut over time. This is Bride Biscuit talking to John. I also added in a raw ferments. Your strategy is solid and used my many and use my many though. I'm not really sure what that means. Sorry. Um, I'm still struggling with the raw fermented foods. The reason is we don't need vegetation, but if you're gonna have vegetation, I think fermented is the best way to go. But I didn't keep those in my diet because again, I went carnivore, and I think that at least for me anyways, I'm seeing the huge benefits. For the people, one thing that I remember when I was looking at fermented foods, one of the problems that I saw was that sometimes the fermented foods were still, we were adding different toxins. I can't remember right now I can't remember, so I'm not going to try to pretend I do. But that was why I didn't lean more on those fermented foods while I was keto. So John says, I found you a few weeks ago. I'm loving your playlist and have been sharing to people. Oh, thank you very much. Great data-based information. I'm down 182 pounds from 368. Congratulations. It's amazing to me when I have people who can tell me, first of all, that they tracked. I wish I was tracking from the day one, but I was trying to heal my hip and I didn't realize I was going to lose weight. Because I mean, no diet has ever worked before, so I didn't actually believe that there would be a gain, like a weight benefit, I should say, from this. So at the very beginning, I wasn't checking how much weight I lost. I now have lost a total of 80 that was tracked, but I know I lost a good amount, like all the water weight that fell off and everything. I wasn't tracking at the time, so I don't really know how much extra weight was there, and I don't want to guess. So I just use the 80 that I have actually lost as my number. But congratulations on getting to, I'm not going to try to pretend to do that math, but getting down 182 pounds. You reverse diabetes and you're off all heart medication. Congratulations. That is amazing. And I love that you shared that here so I could say it out loud so that people could hear it, because this is the thing about eating healthy is you do get your body back, you get your life back, you get a lot of things back. People get concerned, like with the amount of weight you've lost, there will be loose skin. I had loose skin. So just, I'm gonna pause here and talk about that. People were so concerned and they're like, oh, like if I have so much weight to lose, I don't want to have loose skin. Can I point this out? It used to be that when I would do this in live streams, there was like, it was saggy. And there's nothing I can do about it, right? Because I'm in a live stream and I'm moving around and like maybe, like I turn on this thing I have going over here. And so like it would happen that I and you'd see it. And now you can see like it's not there anymore. So our body is constantly working on us. Of course, the saggy skin stayed with me for years, lots of years, and I still have some in different places, but hey, you'll notice not here anymore. Why? Because as your body corrects the things that are um, imperative to correct, right? The things that must be solved right now, those things happen first. But then once your body gets past those things, or let's say you get to a good enough place where you got a good amount of adjustment on internal stuff, and I'm not by any way saying that my internals are healthy right now. I've only been doing this for 7+ years. I know I have 13, maybe even more than 13 years to go because the first few years I was keto. So again, like I have a lot of time. I theoretically, if I start at my 2 year, I have 18 years to go. Again, am I worried about it? No, because I plan to eat healthy moving forward. My point is, my body has been able to reincorporate some skin because autophagy. So anytime I do fast, and most days I go somewhere between, let's say, 20 and 23, maybe even sometimes 18 to 23 hours a day without eating anything, my body's using that time to rebuild, repair, etc. So I will just share with you that although I do still have a little bit of loose skin, so I'm not going to, the change has been terrific. And in the places that I care about having loose skin, like the visible places, like it actually tackled those first. Couldn't have asked it to because you don't get to spot change anything. Your body does what your body does. Somehow it's decided to hit the places that are visible. So I totally appreciate that. Absolutely appreciate that. My body is working with me, which makes me very happy. Um, that's really positive when we're in bathing suit season and whatever. Oh my goodness. Let's see. I learned that pulse in Daniel was gladiator or slave food. I'm not sure what pulse is. Beans, barley, and spice soup. Sounds delicious and effectively weight gainer. Oh, okay. Cornbread in my younger days was like steroids to put on weight. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of things that we eat that we think are super healthy. Like I grew up, my favorite healthy breakfast was oatmeal and cream of wheat. Neither of those are both like just weight gain stories. But those are my favorite healthy meals, right? And I didn't know better. Like my parents totally thought that that was healthy for me to eat. I thought I was being super good, right? My dad and both of them, my dad and they made it in an amazing way. I thought I was doing great. Put some milk in there. That even made it better. Like it just delicious, right? Nope. Huge mistake. Potassium requirements is insane when you look at it. Eat nutrient dense with variety to get that. Yeah, there are ways to get it from food. Potassium, almost, what I understand, meat, fish, poultry, eggs will give you what you need, but vegetation comes in and steals away your ability to have those things stay in your system. So Dr. Eid really did help me to understand that what you want to do is keep that veg low as possible so that when you eat the healthy things, you get to keep it. Now, the other thing that I think probably would be ideal, but then at that point, the question becomes, why are you eating them? But this is, again, my question. If I was to stay keto, I think probably what I would have done would have been to separate when I ate veg from when I ate my meats to make sure that like the that nature of vegetation to strip things out of like, so you eat meat, fish, poultry, or eggs alongside of these vegetation that ends up blocking your ability to access, which Dr. Lehman talks about a lot, that you're eating vegetation and it's blocking your ability to access it. So what's the point of it? If I would have known that, then obviously separating them makes the most sense. But then at that point, if you separate these things out, what is the point of eating the vegetation at that point? It's no longer a side dish. You're making it a meal, and in that way, so I know for sure if I tried to do that, I probably would have just become carnivore anyway. Should we limit dairy when doing carnivore? So because I see carnivore as a version of a ketogenic diet because you're taking your carb count down really low by taking out all the plants, the dairy that I say absolutely should be removed is milk. Any form of milk, unless you're having just a teaspoon or tablespoon, is going to put you over your carb count for the day. A lot of people have cheese, a lot of people have heavy cream. I've more recently found problems with dairy, and so I've removed it from my diet because of the casomorphins. I have a video coming up about that soon. But I will say that if you're doing keto or carnivore, it's typical, it's normal to have those things in your diet. And I disagree, but it's typical to have those things in your diet. But when you're talking about, if you're looking at it from the perspective of trying to be the healthiest you possibly can be, I would remove them because I have removed them because I feel like the casomorphins allows us to keep having dopamine hits and etc. But I have a video coming up about that soon, so I'm not going to go too much into detail about that here. Jenny Middich doesn't like Lugol's. She went over it on her channel. She uses another source. Can't remember the name. She does a ton of research too. I use Lugol's 2% for the record. Yeah, I know that there is a food way to get it. You can get it from the problem, okay, you can get it from seaweed. My problem is, again, it's a plant. So I've been using glucose, but I'll check out her channel to see what she has recommended instead. And maybe that, whatever she's found, if it has actually the right amount to be taken on it, it might be a better source for most people. My only problem is that from what I can understand, again, all the information that I looked up about Lugol's didn't show me any problems. So I would love to watch that video and see what did she find that was negative. But I only looked up what other YouTube channels were saying about it. So maybe she actually found some research and there might be more information that I need. So I'm more than willing to take a look. For me, testing the micronutrients, it's very important. I was bedridden for 2.5 years because of magnesium deficiency. John, thank you for letting us know that. I'm not really sure why that would cause you to be bedridden. I don't know if you want to share a bit more about that, but wow, that's amazing. But you're right, tests don't guess. They're going to tell you exactly what's what. Thank you for sharing that. Kidney stones are 80% calcium oxide. You know what I learned? I learned from Sally Norton that when you eat spinach, which has calcium in it, and they tell you to eat to get calcium, the oxalates block you from being able, and other things in it. I think she said there was other things too, block you from being able to access the calcium in the spinach, but also block you from accessing your own calcium. So again, be very careful. You could be creating, because the oxalates bind to the calcium, right? So that's, yeah, part of the problem. So again, people that maybe you're keto but you're eating spinach, you could be creating a problem and not even realize it, or just on a standard diet eating spinach. She also mentioned that spinach is so toxic that she in her book says children should not eat it. And any adult shouldn't, but she said especially you should never give to your children. She named a few things. She said spinach, almonds, and cassava. So those boba tea things that we see kids drinking, they shouldn't be having that. Shouldn't be having that. It's not good for them. Whenever I meet folks with problems like those you've had videos on, I share those. Thank you so much, Mandel. I appreciate that. I really, really hope that it helps people. And I'm again, I'm trying to reach more people. So the more people that are sharing, the better. I really do appreciate it. And yes, we low magnesium is common according to doctors in this space. I really just wish I knew what caused the bedridden part of the story. Nuts and seeds have a lot of anti-nutrients. Yeah, that is absolutely true. Dr. Eid pointed that out to me. Triples starved while I'm not really sure what triples are while gorging themselves on sabotaging wheat in Star Trek. Oh, the originals are. Oh, so is that like a okay? Give a population malnourished food to occupy their eating while they starve. So we are tribbles. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Oh, okay, okay, okay. I get. Okay, I didn't get the reference, and I used to was wait that you said Star Trek, right? Star Trek. Yeah, I used to watch Star Trek, but I didn't get the reference. Try, try, Triticale 3, also a plant toxin. Triticale 3 is a plant toxin. Thank you for sharing that. What would that be in? Out of curiosity, Triticale 3. I'm not sure. Um, that's what happened when I trusted and followed the mainstream doctors. They left me, huh? The test showed that I finally taught myself on how to read blood tests. Huh. Okay, so you learned how to read your blood tests and figured out that your magnesium was low. The doctors didn't even tell you that? I'm so sorry to hear that. That's obviously frustrating, maddening. We go to our doctors because we're expecting them to help us and to point out but you know what? They probably saw the low magnesium and didn't think it could be a contributing factor because we were constantly told that those kind of things can't be it. If your cholesterol was fine, you should be fine, right? That's the storyline that we are all given, even though it's absolutely ridiculous, not true, foolishness. Um, Bride's Biscuit said, I had IBS, IBD, colitis, and diverticulitis. Fiber made everything worse. Carnivore healed your gut. I'm so happy that you shared that because, again, when I read these things out loud, it helps other people to understand that this is possible. Both the Dr. Barry and Elizabeth Bright say to take Lugol's iodine. They both suggest 5%, I think, 2 drops a day. Yeah, from what I understood from Dr. Hampton, that's too much. So this is where, yeah, so I'm actually going to be doing another video on this because I want to go deeper on it. Iodine is contentious in this nutrition space, but I have Hashimoto's, so I am making sure I get enough. Thank you for sharing that. Miss Violet, I'm eating ground beef patties with cheese and meat only, not losing any weight. I'm so confused. Um, K-Day, um, so ground beef patties that you're making yourself? That would be my first question. One of the things that I will point out to you is that when we buy already processed things, often there's other stuff in there. So my first suggestion would be buy ground meat and then make your own patties if you want to eat them as patties or just stir fry the meat. Um, if you're struggling, so first, and oh, my second point to you though would be make sure the oils that you're using are not seed oils because ground beef patties that we buy at the store, first of all, can have fillers, and they often don't talk about those fillers. A lot of the time, those fillers are carb based. They can also have oils and so those inflammatory seed oils that will keep your body struggling. If you make the stuff at home, then you know exactly what went into it. And that's the safest thing to do. The other problem is that if you're using shredded cheese, again, those shredded cheeses often have fillers. So if you're going to use cheese, I would shred the cheese myself. But as I said a few minutes ago, casomorphin, that's a thing. But if you're really at the beginning of the process, I would start there. The other thing that I will point out to you, because you're saying that's the only thing you're eating, if that's truly the only thing you're eating, I would consider adding eggs if you can tolerate them. I would consider adding other meats. I know there are a lot of doctors out there that say that they only, like Dr. Sean Baker, only eats red meat, beef products, which is totally fine to do. But I also feel like when we are eating just one thing, and so unless this is a financial constraint, when we are eating just one thing, I feel like it's because we're trying to force our body to do something rather than letting our body do something. Having a little bit of variety in the meat, fish, poultry, and the eggs that you're eating, so that little bit of variety will help your body to get all the different kinds of micronutrients, the different levels, all the things. And I do feel that that's helpful. But again, if this is a financial constraint and that's why you're doing that, it's no problem. But I would buy ground beef, or I think you said meat. So ground beef, pork, whatever ground meat you're buying. And again, you can also buy ground beef, pork, turkey. Like there's different way, like chicken. So you can do it that way if that's what you can afford. The bigger point to me is make sure you're eating enough. A lot of the time when we buy ground meat, there if you buy the lean version, you're not getting enough fat. And so therefore, your body is not going to have enough fat to build you properly, your brain, your skin cells. If your body is struggling to have what it needs to rebuild you, it can't focus on weight loss. It just can't. And if there's toxins in what you're eating, it can't focus on weight loss. So again, based on what you wrote here, the only place I could see that the toxins could be coming in is if you happen to be using some plant-based oil, or even worse, some toxic seed oil to fry your patties, or it's actually in the patties, and that could be the problem. But if that's truly all you're eating, and if you're not under eating or overeating, because theoretically you could overeat on a carnivore or keto diet, like it's actually possible. So if you're what Dr. Lehman pointed out is that for women who are, let's say, like sedentary, you're not active, you should be aiming at 1 gram of protein for every pound of your goal weight. So let's say your goal weight was 100 pounds. You would be aiming for 100 grams of protein in your day. That's not 100 grams of meat. That's 100 grams of protein in the meat. So, which I know, I'm pretty sure, let me just double check, but if I was trying to get 100 grams of protein, I think it's more than even a pound of meat. So let me just I'm going to go with some kind of ground meat just to make it easy because that's what you said you're eating. So let's say ground. I'm going to go with beef because most people eat ground beef. And I'm going to go, if I go with lean ground beef, because I know a lot of people do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with medium if I can have it here. That's lean. So I'm going to do 70% lean. Wait, I think normal is 80% lean. Sorry, 80% means that that's normal. If you go past that, I think that means it's lean. And if I go by grams, and you know what, guys, this is something that you can do. 100 grams only gives me 25 grams of protein. So 100 grams of meat, 25 grams of protein. So if we believe that this is 25% seems to be the number, then that means if I put 400 here, I'm going to get my 100. Right? And yeah, exactly. Boom. I put 400 and I get, so you need to eat at minimum 400 grams of meat to get 100 grams of protein. But Dr. Lehman added, if the woman is active, then you'll need a bit more. So if you are working out or running around after children or have a job that has you doing a lot, or if you're using yourself a lot in the day, your body a lot in the day, if you have a job that makes you think a bunch, right? Because that burns a lot of energy too. But if you're trying to build structure, I don't know if the energy is going to be the biggest thing. If you're running around a lot and moving around a lot, he said you should maybe do even 1.25, so 1 in 25 per body pound. So that would be 125 grams of protein for your day, which would be, now you're going up another, I want to say 50% or something like that. So 450. So these are things to think about. And we're often not thinking about that. And so you might just be under eating as well, protein or fat. I listened to the Iodine Crisis book in its entirety on Audible. Thank you for letting me. I already went and got it. I'm gonna be going through it. The body prioritizes healing over weight loss is something I learned to understand after initial weight loss adaptation phase will cause fluctuations and stalls in weight loss. Yeah, for sure. Because your body doesn't care how much you weigh. As a matter of fact, gaining weight is a protective thing your body is doing for you. It's trying to help you out, trying to keep you as healthy as possible. Your body does not see gaining weight as a problem unless it gets you to the point where you can't get away from an animal. That's when it would become a problem, right? So, but a pleasantly slightly overweight person from a body perspective can still run and climb a tree. So it's not an issue. Great stuff. Very cool. Lambs is congratulating you. Cheese can be great for many, inflammatory for others, but the casomorphins in cheese can cause you to over consume, and it is very nutrient dense. And elimination is a great way to test personally. Yeah. When I took, and I have a video coming about this as well. When I took the cheese out of my diet, so it wasn't cheese. Well, actually, when I took the cheese out of my diet originally, I did struggle a little bit. Like back, but I was taking out so many things. I feel like that wasn't necessarily the top of my radar because when I was having, when I went from keto to carnivore, I removed avocado, um, olives, a salad every other week, and the cheese that would have been in the salad, or the cheese that I would have had with the avocado, not the avocado, but I would have had cheese with the olives that I was eating. So I just assumed it was all of that, and I didn't really hone in on the fact that it was specifically removing the cheese that was bothering me. Although now when I've just removed the the um the cream, it clicked on me that hey, there's something there. Loose skin didn't happen for me that long. Autophagy is a great mechanism that the body does. So that's cool because what it says to me, John, is that maybe you were in a position where you didn't have that many things that you needed to solve. And so your body was able to to like go and take, or maybe even your body use some of that loose skin to build and repair other structures. But I think it's always cool when we see that our body was able to fix things and help us to just improve our life, improve our health, and do what we want to do. So autophagy, the body eating itself in a good way. It's spring cleaning for your cells. Yeah, absolutely. Book could be B12. There's a movie here on YouTube and several interviews and lectures. Good introduction to importance of testing. B12. Okay. I remember Dr. Berg talking about B12 when he was trying to encourage people to take what is that stuff called now? Nutritional yeast. And I feel like, I mean, of course, I did take nutritional yeast for a while. I don't necessarily take it anymore. Talk about that in the video coming up too. But it's a very interesting thing that we can get B12. I don't know if we can get B12 specifically, like what we get it from in terms of meat, fish, poultry, and eggs. So is there a reason still to take nutritional yeast? And for me, I don't know. So I would love if anybody has any data on that to share it, because I do think that it will help us all to know like what's what with B12. But if you have a deficiency, then what should you be leaning towards? Is the nutritional yeast safe enough? Again, I don't trust things that are processed that much, so I've stopped using it, but it's a big question mark. Whatever is mainstream, do the opposite. Thank you, Michael Bradley. That's funny. Um, Magnesium is part of the needed electrolytes for the body. Electrolytes power the mitochondria, fuel the ATP, powerhouse of the body. Yep. Thank you for, oh, so that's why. Oh, thank you for explaining that. Okay. So if my body can't get enough of that energy, then of course it's going to struggle to make me get off the couch. Oh my goodness, that's so obvious. Thank you for explaining that. Magnesium is needed to make ATP. Bang. So for those who don't know, adenosine triphosphate, those are like our body cleaves off phosphates, I believe it is, yeah, because then you have diphosphate, cleaves off phosphates to create energy for us. And oh, that is so cool to understand. Thank you. Let's see. That's why dairy is often used traditionally in spinach dishes. The calcium in the milk binds with the high oxalates to help limit absorption. Oh, really? I think it's just better to stop putting the spinach and the stop just putting the spinach in the meal, and then um you don't need the dairy. But okay. So again, that's frustrating because if they come here. That's frustrating because if they know that, then the question is why do they tell us to eat spinach? Like, if they already know that it's going to cause problems, wouldn't it be better to just tell people to stop eating it? Huh? Like, I don't understand that. And I feel like all of these health claims about plants being good for us, but then, but do this to mitigate that and do that. And it's frustrating. It is absolutely frustrating because it puts us in the position where we think we're doing something good for ourselves and we so are not. We so are not. And thank you for sharing that, Bri Biscuit. This like ah um Chibbles are little fur puffs. Thank you. I like yeah, I did see the last one. So they're like Ewoks, the teddy bear like you. Okay. Sensitive to eggs. Oh, that's too bad. Actually I have eggs like practically every day. Unless I have a huge amount of meat. Like yesterday, I had like 700 grams of pork that I ate. So I didn't have eggs in that meal. But most, and I had already had like another 300 grams of meat earlier in the day because yesterday I had two meals. So I didn't bother. But yeah, definitely, I love having my eggs. I healed with only 25% of my protein coming from beef. I always wanted to let others know eat the best you can afford, but don't avoid anything out of fear. It might even work for you. You know what I will also say? You might initially start off eating a good amount of meat and then feel full and so not eat as much. And that happened to me. So I had lots of days when I was losing weight where I would start off like thinking like so in the maybe I'd have like I was keto when I lost all my weight. So I would have like a complete chicken leg and some veg. And some days I could eat that complete chicken leg and all that veg. And then other days I would get through the chicken leg, but I couldn't eat the veg. And then other days I could barely get through the chicken leg or the veg. And so depending on what was going on with me. However, the thing that I realized eventually was that I didn't need to force myself to eat when I wasn't hungry. And so that really started to change the way that my meals went because breakfast completely fell away. Lunch eventually completely fell away. And I was eventually on my keto journey. No, I was two meals when I got to go weight. I'm wrong. I was still two meals, but breakfast was gone. And how much of those two meals? I usually ate lunch, but my supper meal might have been really small because I just wasn't that hungry. And what I started to understand was that when your body actually has access to the fat you are carrying, a lot of our body is made of fat. It doesn't need to send you out for as much food. And so what I came to understand is that sometimes the reason that I just didn't need to eat as much is because my body was pulling a lot of that energy and a lot of those building blocks from me. Whether it was taking back in some protein from the skin it was recuperating, or any damaged cells it was recuperating, or whatever, and the fat that was on me. So you don't have to worry so much about about getting in enough food when you're in weight loss mode as you do when you're closer to your goal weight. Because I feel like when I was closer to, so when I was at what I thought was going to be my final resting spot, but was still 10 pounds over where I am now, and I really thought I could stay there because I wanted to stay there, because lower than that, I felt like I looked too thin. But what I realized was that eating more helped my body to build better muscle and then allow me to lose the weight at the same. So my composition changed, and my weight did go down, but I look how I look now, right? So I don't look overly thin, which I did at one point, and it was but I think it was because a little bit loose skin, a little bit, I don't know, but I looked overly thin. Didn't enjoy that. Can you see can see you and other influencers remaking the intro of the $6 million man. Gentlemen, we can rebuild them. Then showing shopping, cooking, animations of that would be super cool. Thank you. That's a cool idea. Maybe I will do that one day. That's super funny. I probably would need someone to help me with the animations, because I'm not great at that, but that would be super funny. Um, okay. Protein will swipe insulin. Protein will swipe insulin. Only half of the carbohydrates, but will knock you out of ketosis. You're not in ketosis, you're not burning fat. Insulin is the fat storage regulator. I'm not sure I understand the part about protein will swipe insulin. If you overdo anything, you can create a problem for yourself. But my understanding of the amount of protein you actually need to eat to get out of ketosis is quite high. And I don't think most people are doing that unless you are a high volume eater. Most people are not doing that. But I do understand the fear that people talk about, because we've been we've been taught that overeating protein and fat is such a bad thing. We've been taught that if you don't eat enough carbs, your body's gonna turn on you and take your protein and Dr. Fung talks about this, and Dr. Eckberg talked about this. They both pointed out that's not the reality of what your body actually does. Your body doesn't go to protein if you've got fat on you that it can take. It doesn't go to a healthy protein. It absolutely will recuperate problematic proteins. So if you've got damaged cells, if you've got excessive skin on your body, it will absolutely do that. But it's not going to take healthy heart tissue, for example, to burn as fuel when it has other options. So Dr. Fung and Dr. Eckberg have both pointed out that that is absolutely false. Our bodies are too smart for that. Oh, thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate you saying that. I love having these chats with you guys. So I appreciate you telling me that you love me. You are the reason I keep striving with keto and carnivore. Oh my gosh, regardless of my weight issues. Thank you. Thank you. It does. That keeps me going. I mean, honestly, I know there's a lot of people that say a lot of things, but you guys do not understand how I keep coming back and making these videos, because I want to help more so than anything else. And like these kind of comments, they fuel me. So I really appreciate you, Katie, taking the time to tell me that. And I absolutely, these kind of comments keep me going. So thank you very much. You can get your B12 from organ meats, fish and meat. Pork is a powerhouse for B1. Thank you for sharing that. That's cool to know. B12 is in animal products. If we have loved ones who aren't carnivore or have different conditions, they need injections. Oof, if they're doing vegan stuff, yeah. Very lucrative to treat the symptoms of B12 deficiency. Okay, so just eating actual straight um animal products will help us. So that's cool to know. Let's see. So I feel like I'm really close to the end of my comments. So if you have any more questions, this is the time. I have three more. I don't eat spinach. Good for you. Our ancestors knew not to eat it, at least by itself. Today, it's touted as healthy. I know you can buy a complete salad that's kale and spinach here in the grocery stores, and that is so full of toxins. It's crazy. But people buy it and they think they're doing something good for. They think they're being healthy. It's such a trap. Let's see, for egg sensitivity, try having only the yolks, or duck eggs are also less problematic. Thank you for that. Thank you for that clue and trick there, Lambs. I didn't know where the problem would lie. So the whites, it's funny because we are told to have the whites only, right? That's the safe part to have, the whites. But it's interesting. You're saying that actually the yolks would be better. And I believe the yolks are actually the main, like, part of the most nutritious part of the egg, from what I've understood, and it's where the fat lives. So good to know. Thank you very much. And I've never had duck eggs. Maybe I should try that one day. Let's see. I'm in that spot now. The hardest part of losing weight. The rest of three, sorry, the reset of three brains, memory of weight, set point. The body fights to get back to the weight memory. 95% of people will gain there. Um, yeah, so my only I guess the thing I will say to you, John, the number one thing that I found helps most people to stay with it is actually eating healthy. Like, if you allow yourself to eat healthy every single day and don't fall for the part where you let the toxins back in, if you do that, then you're going to do well. I think so. The reason a lot of people, and like I said about these videos that we see, the reason that they're falling is because to solve one little something, they let something back in because they're told that, oh, this particular piece of vegetation is going to help you. They let it back in and they're off chasing again. If you are carnivore, which I think you did say, but maybe you're keto and low carb keto or something, like very low keto, very low carb keto, I think you might have said. But if you are in a scenario where you can minimize going above the number that triggers you, whatever that number happens to be. So if you're keto, like I found out in keto, I was 18 grams. If I touched 18 grams, I was off of chasing again. What I did was I took myself to 10, and I never allowed myself from that day forward. I couldn't have more than 10 grams of carbs. I stuck myself there. Why? I wanted to make sure I was nowhere near my number, right? When we ride up to the edge of the number we can do, chances are, because nothing is perfect, they're telling you that there's 25 grams of carbs in here. That's not perfect. This could be 30. It could be 20. Probably not, but it could be 30. And the same thing goes for fruits and vegetables. They're giving you an idea of how much are in these fruits and vegetables. But when you're making your plate and you're weighing them, we don't know if that tree or branch or bush or whatever, or root, had a particularly good set of feeding while it was growing. And maybe that broccoli has a bit more carb in it because it was fed that much better. Because we don't know that, and we will only know when our body will know, but our scale can't tell us. That is the issue. So if you eat on plan, and if you keep yourself well below the number that you're aiming at, and if that's carnivore, it might include removing all the other spices and only using salt, because that was the only way I could be sure that I wouldn't like mess with myself by having some spices, which is vegetation. right? Playing games with me. So if you do that for yourself, then what happens? So if you're still keto, John, keep yourself under the number that triggers you. So that means you need to figure out what that number is. And how I did that is because I was tracking. And I tracked for the for like I mean strict tracking for 2 years when I first did keto. And then for the next year until I switched over to carnivore, I tracked occasionally. Every once in a while I would just weigh stuff and put it. I always weighed my vegetation and I had an idea about how much I could eat because I ate the same vegetables over and over. Um, but I'm talking about like I would always track my like vegetation that was weighable. But like my avocado, I would just take one avocado. So I wouldn't track that. I would take I think I used to eat 12 olives in a meal. I wouldn't track that. But my salads, I would always weigh them and make sure all the ingredients, which wasn't much, it was lettuce and it was basically lettuce and the salad dressing. I weighed that and the meat that I was putting in, that was my salad. So I've just made sure 100% that I knew what vegetation I was having. And throughout the time that I did heavy cream, I always weighed it. Why? Because I knew going over in any of these things could cause me to chase. So I'm encouraging you, John, that if you are carnivore, then it would be looking at those spices because maybe they're still there impacting how you feel and what you do and how you're thinking about the stuff, and it could be playing a role. A lot of times we just don't realize that it's playing a role. Over a 3-year span, I'm trying to find more information on this. Yeah. And I don't know about the set point. I mean, I feel like our body sets itself based on what's happening and different points in life. So that's another question mark I have. But I wish I had a better answer for you, John. And if I come across one, I'll for sure um, try to make sure I say it when you're in the next, if you bring it up again, because I probably won't remember. But if I do find an answer, I'll take note of it. Let's see. I mentioned the B12 movie and book because it's a good communicator about deficiency causing issues. That mechanism could be for other nutritional deficiency. Oh, is that a movie? B12 movie on YouTube. Let me just write that one down too. B12 movie on YouTube. I'm gonna try to find that. I love I love like finding things that help me to better understand stuff. Dr. Boz and Barry talk about egg whites being problematic for some people. Thank you for sharing that. I don't really watch Dr. Boz much, but Dr. Barry I watch occasionally. Nigel, it's true that people with egg sensitivities, the problem is within the whites, the very thing that we are told to eat and waste the yolk, paying more for the breakfast sandwich, smack my head. Yeah, yeah, I don't, yeah, I do know why. I mean, obviously it makes them money to tell us to eat the wrong things. I was just gonna say I don't know why, but I do. Yes, albumin sensitivity. So I think albumin is a protein, right? So that makes sense. Okay. There are certain proteins that I don't know that we need. I think that maybe is one of them. Uh, I'm a long I'm a long duration faster to maintain weight. I really encourage people, and I'm just going to stop right there and say this right now. I do not encourage people to use fasting for weight management. So I'm saying that fasting as a way to repair your body and help yourself, absolutely. I feel like when we use fasting for weight management, it opens a door for us to eat the wrong things in the long run. Even if you're doing it really well right now, this idea is grown in the back of our head. Well, I could always fast. And I've seen people at parties and all kinds of things. Well, I could always fast. And that becomes a avenue for the wrong foods coming in. So I'm just saying that fasting to help your body clean up, perfection. Fasting because you're just not hungry, no problem. But fasting as a weight management thing, I caution against it. I've said my piece. Okay, let's go on with the comment. I've done 3 to 20 days fasts this year. Oh, sorry, you've done 3 20-day fasts. I read that wrong. I've done 3 20-day fasts this year from May and a bunch of 10 days. I'm thinking that's how I to maintain my set point. And I'm thinking that that's not a good idea. So I've said it. I've given you my reasons why. Your body will, and by the way, no, let me add to that because 20 days is a long time. We don't want to actually put our body in the position where it's not getting the nutrients that it needs. So there's a question mark in my head here, John. Like, were those 20 days easy? Equals, I had so much energy in my body was able to take it from me, not a problem. But if you struggled at any point during those 20 days and pushed yourself to keep going, please, please, please do not do that. Refeed syndrome is a real thing. And I don't even know if you know about refeed syndrome, but when you fast for that long and then reintroduce food, you need to be super careful about it. You need to start slow. It's like this could create problems that you don't even understand could be there. I am really cautioning you. Please do a search and look up refeed syndrome to make sure that you are being the safest you possibly can if you plan to continue doing that, although I strongly advise against it. So refeed syndrome, reason number one. Reason number two is that if you take fasting, a normal thing to do if you're not hungry, and that allows you to your body to do some cleanup. And if you do that, and then when your body asks you for food, you don't give it food, you've now crossed the line from a natural fasting state, normal thing for our body to do, into actually not feeding your body when your body is asking for food. And how do I know my body's actually asking for food? If I drank water or if I drank water and my body still continues to ask me to go get food, if I get a headache, or if I feel queasy or any other physical problems, your body is asking you for food. It is important to listen to your body, especially if you're not doing this in a medical facility where you're being monitored and being given like other, micronutrients by drip. So again, at home, by ourselves, we need to respect our body. Our body knows better than us. So this makes me very nervous what I'm reading here. Please do not do that. Weight loss is not anywhere near as important as good health. Good health is the paramount thing that we are trying to accomplish. I'm not wearing that shirt today, but I usually have a shirt that says prioritize health over taste. But it's over all the things, over taste, over thinness, over trends, over you prioritize health over everything else. So please, 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 please. It's often temporarily the egg sensitivity. You might want to test that every couple of months. Oh, okay. So that's something that could change. Thank you for sharing. Um, Sue, Sue Jager, I had almost given up on watching carnivore and keto videos as so many influencers seem to be doing videos with unreal, eye-catching claims just for the clicks. You don't do that. No extremism. Thank you. I really do try to focus just on what I understand and makes sense because I want you guys to understand why you're doing what you're doing and why not to do other things or to test and see like what works for you. Because at the end of the day, you are the one that's with you all the time and you know what's working and you know what's not working. You know what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. And you also can learn to see the value in putting something down when you've tried and saw that, yeah, I do feel better. Even though that might be fun to eat, even though it might be fun to have once in a while. I mean, I haven't had a drink in over a year because I actually think the last drink I had was a year ago at my anniversary meal. I don't think I've had a drink since then, and I don't care, right? And does that mean I will never have another drink? It doesn't mean that. But at this moment in time, I can't see it happening. Now, it might happen, but at this moment in time, I can't see it happening. We can have fun without the things that we've been told we need to have fun. And I think that's the point that I want all of us to focus on. Totally agree. Okay, yep. Um, I have lost 70 pounds about 12 years ago on keto, then carnivore, but recently fell into adding carbs that some influencers said. A mistake. Okay. All cravings have returned. All well, as well as joint pain. So, Sue, the answer is go back to doing the healthy thing you had been doing. It's hard because one of the things that I've noticed is that when you get over a craving, when you get over that compulsion, and then you step back into it, it's always harder to get back out that second time. And then if you step into it a third time, it's always harder to get back. And every time you go back and forth, it's harder and harder. And every time you go back, if you do have resumption of pain or weight or issues, they come back aggressively. And the thing is, it's not even that it's so much that it's aggressive, but you had such a break from feeling the pain. You had such a break from having itchiness or whatever that when it comes back, it's that disturbing to you. Now, if you let it stay, will you get used to it? Of course. That's part of the reason I don't encourage you to let it stay. If you can do something to get rid of it, so if you can get back on track, which will get rid of it, get back on track so you can get rid of it. Still at a good weight, but feel terrible. Yeah, that's my problem. So I do have violet syndrome, which is what I've named this thing where if I touch the wrong thing, typically it's pain or like my rashes will come back. I love having violet syndrome because it's obvious and it's uncomfortable and it keeps me on track. I hate feeling that way. And so why would I eat this fun thing? Is it fun enough to suffer that? No, it never has been ever. I've gone to intermediate fasting now since I reverse a lot of metabolic issues. Now I'm doing intermediate fasting 36 to 72 hours. Yeah, I know about refeeding. Great. Right now I'm just dealing with hepatic insulin resistance. I'm in stage 3, moving into stage 4, complete reversal of insulin resistance. Other than that, my labs look perfect. That's terrific. I have never fought my fasting. Good. My body tells me when to stop. Then I do. Okay, great. That makes me much more comfortable. So what you're telling me is that 20 days was done easily. So maybe that was during a period of time where you had more energy on you and were able to fast for that long. But I will still say, John, you've made such a huge improvement in such a short period of time that your body might naturally now be in a state where it's trying to recalibrate and do the things that it needs to do. I love the fact that we can get labs and check what's going on, but I also need us to understand you cannot force your body to do something that it's not ready to do. And while you might be trying to force your body, let's say, to repair one thing that you have your eyes on, if it's working on your brain or your heart or some other something that you just don't know is happening, and we stall it because we're not giving it what it needs, that could be problematic too. If you're doing these fasts easily, keep going. That's amazing. If they're easy for you, not a problem. But it scares me when I hear people talk about fasting for weight loss. That is not the reason. We just need to put that idea down. Your body is going to weigh what it's supposed to weigh when it's supposed to weigh it because a healthy body regulates its weight. If your body is not regulating its weight, that means it's not healthy yet. Let it get there when it gets there. You lost 100 and some odd pounds. Like your body has already done so much where weight is concerned, right? Trust it. It wants to be at its healthiest weight. It still thinks you're on the savannah running from lions or right in the rainforest running from gorillas. Your body still thinks you need to be agile and able to get. So trust it. When it's time for you to be there, you will be there. I don't like influencers playing with our carb addiction. Yeah, yeah. Like, I don't think that they're trying to play with our carb cravings. I think the problem is that they have them themselves and haven't labeled them properly. I think the problem is that sometimes when you're in the field, you think that you know everything and that you can't make a mistake. That's not true. You know, if we remember the story of Semmelweis, I think that was his name, how you pronounce it, that doctor back in the, I think he was back in the 1800s, who figured out that the reason that midwives were able to deliver babies and have not have the women die, but doctors would deliver babies and the women would pass away. He figured out is because the midwives between events would wash their hands, and the male doctors felt that they were superior and didn't need to wash their hands. So they would go from a procedure perhaps where someone had something contagious and right and go and deliver a baby. And then of course the woman would pass because right? We need to understand whenever we're trying to help somebody else, even if we've taken all the due diligence to learn everything we possibly can, we can still make mistakes. We, inside of the scenario that we're living, are inside the bottle. We're not reading the instructions anymore, right? We're in the bottle, doing the thing. If I'm not paying attention, allow myself to step outside for a minute and look back at what I'm doing and saying, hey, is this still best practice? I will make mistakes. You will notice I don't talk to you guys about what I'm doing to tell you that I do it perfectly. I talk to you guys about what I'm doing because I want you to understand that the goal isn't perfection. The goal is for you to know that best practice is X. So right, I talk about best practice, and then I talk about, hey, these are the times I stepped out of best practice and it went wrong, or these are the times that I did best practice and look at the benefit I got. Those are the two stories that I give because they're relevant to you, right? But I always start from what best practice is, because that's what you need if you're going to do something. We don't teach our kids a third of the times tables or a quarter of the, we teach them all the times tables, 1 through 12. Why? So that quickly, as they're going through life, they can do that little mental math. But if we only taught them, like, oh, you can learn 1, 5, and 10, right? You don't need to know the rest. Then they're not going to be able to do their mental math correctly. If we tell them, oh, just 2, 7, and 9, they're not going to be able to do their mental math correctly. They need to know 1 through 12 to be able to do that mental math appropriately while they're at the grocery store, the checkout line, and they're trying to quickly understand, is this person messing with me or not? Right? I bought 7 of these things at this price. Is he messing with me? If you know your mental math, you can quickly tell if someone's trying to rip you off or not. This is why we teach. So we teach our kids the best practice of most things. Be polite. We don't tell our kids, oh, you just have to be polite to these people, but not these people. But right? No, you're supposed to be polite. Are they going to apply it perfectly all the time? No, but I still teach it right. Because by teaching it right, I'm giving my kids the groundwork for them to get out there and live life. And it's the same thing for health. I need you guys to know the basics, the best practices possible, so that you can get out there, live your life, and at least know what to do. Whether you take that decision to do it right now or not, you know what to do. That is the most important thing for all of us. Because once you know what to do and you take that decision, I'm doing it this way or that way, then everything else falls in line. Everything else. Because if I did a mistake, I can see that I made the mistake and I can correct next time. And if I did everything in my understanding correctly and I'm still not getting my results, now I have the option to do more digging and verify, like what John is doing right now. Why is what I'm doing not giving me the outcome? And maybe as I'm answering to you, John, you might find out that, oh, your body's doing everything it needs to do, but time to clean up the interior, stuff you can't actually see, is what's happening right now. If you're eating on track and everything is going, you're eating enough protein and fat, your carbs are low, and if you're doing all the right things and you feel like you have energy and your brain fog is not like, if you feel great, maybe your body just needs time to clean up something internal that you cannot see. Remember, we don't have pain receptors inside. We only know that something is wrong when we get pushed down. This is something, right? So, John, like, you figured out the magnesium thing because your body pushed you down. There might be something else that your body is actively trying to heal right now. How will I know that? I feel good. I'm not losing. I did have a stall, a period of time where I felt great. My weight wasn't moving, but I believed in my body and I kept going. And it kicked back in eventually and kept going. Then I had another period. I was at goal weight from what I understood, went on vacation, ate more. Boom, weight changed again. Okay, now I'm at my new goal weight. Went for it a bit more, added more fat. Boom, lost another few pounds that stayed off. Was not trying to accomplish that, but it happened. Move forward again. More recently, casomorphin is out. I feel like I'm again seeing some shifts in my numbers. Not a big enough number to talk about yet, but just like I'm a little bit lower than, but again, 1 or 2 pounds up and down is never a big deal, right? Three, I pay attention to three. Does it mean I'm going to stay there? I don't know. I just took the casomorphin out of my diet. That's not the point. Every time we do better, your body adjusts. Every time we do worse, our body adjusts. What we do impacts where our body sits. Okay. I literally crawled out of my bed. You could only walk 10 feet. I'm walking 6 miles, 2 to 4 miles daily. I feel so happy for you. I feel so inspired by you. I feel like what you're saying, John, is amazing. I had a video on my channel where a woman had like something happen brain wise. She was completely in a state where they were wondering if she would ever even talk again. And her family fought and fought and fought and started to feed her better. And then she learned some stuff, and I wish I could remember her name right now, but it's on my channel. It's in the playlist, where the playlist of interviews, and she's like jumping on the cover image and on the thumbnail. She fought back from not being able to move and just being tortured by the staff and what they were doing. You got to watch that video. To doing a complete interview with me, standing the entire time. I was sitting, as I'm doing right now. I'm sitting. And she was standing the entire interview. And you, as you know, I can go long. We were more than an hour plus. It's amazing what our body can accomplish when it has the right tools. We've all been made into carb cravers from the day we were born. Yes, I know. The first thing I fed my daughter, following my doctor's instructions, was baby oatmeal. Big mistake. It's not our fault. It's the institutions giving us the wrong information. You're right. It's not our fault, but it is our responsibility to fix it. And that's why I make these videos, because I really do hope that you guys will be able to fix it and get your lives back and just be on track. That's why they play with it, right? At Lambs, because they can so easily sway people with that. Yeah. Um, mitophagy, your cells tossing out busted mitochondria. It's a focus cleanup crew, recycling weak power plants so your body runs stronger and cleaner. Mitophagy, I don't know if I've ever heard that term before. I found that a keto mojo meter is a must-have tool for prolonged fasting. Um, I'm not sure how that would play out. Like a keto mojo meter. Yes, I guess you would show. So what I understand about ketones, but maybe it's different when you're fasting. So, but what I understand about ketones is that the more your body is used to using ketones, the more efficient it is with your ketones, so that eventually these keto meters, like the ones that you blow into anyways, can't tell anymore. If this is a blood one, then yeah, that one would be able to tell. But I feel like the ones that you blow into, they lose their efficiency because your body becomes much more efficient and you're not exhaling. Like that whole thing about keto breath was people were exhaling ketones, right? And it doesn't smell great. 185 pounds I've lost over 15-year span with yo-yoing. It's great. We have all this information nowadays. There used to be so much censorship back then. Barry really struggled during that time. I'm still struggling because there's still censorship. Uh, I mean, that's part of the reason I'm asking you guys to share this out, because I still struggle to get views, as you can see if you look at my channel. But that's not going to deter me. I'm going to keep going. So, although my last video did better, but I don't get anywhere near the views of some of those other channels. My son had reached the age of pointing out where I break the rules. I point out, you saw the rules in turn breaking me. The rules are the rules. Okay. Okay. So I mean, the cool thing there, Mandel, is that your son knows the rules, and therefore if he needs to use them, they're at his disposal, which is very cool. And obviously he wants dad to be healthy. So I'm with Dr. Ben Bickman. Wait, I'm with Dr. Ben Bickman's website and Ken Berry's Discord for direction. I speak with them all the time. Oh, you actually speak with them. That's very cool. So great. I'm very happy to know that you have somebody who understands this stuff on your side helping you, because it makes me so nervous when I hear people talking about doing these things and they don't have someone who's going to keep them on track and make sure that they're doing what's best. So that makes me so much more um confident. I will still say what I say. I still stick with what I'm saying, uh fasting as a weight loss tool. I don't agree with it. I know some doctors will say it's fine. They're not thinking about the mental health part of it. That idea that, oh, I can get away with it, creeps up on you. So please, John, just be careful that it doesn't creep up on you and get you to do things that are not good for you. That's the only thing that I'm going to say. But I'm super happy to know that you have Bickman and Barry in your corner helping you out. I That's terrific. Let's see. It's a blood testing system. I could agree with that. And the last one we have here, I have a ways to go. Um, Stem cells. I know what the N is for, but stem cells still haven't repaired. Oh, of course, it takes time, and I think that was supposed to be mitochondria. It's where it needs to be. Mitochondria isn't where it needs to be. Um, Obviously, again, that's my point. It takes time to heal. All of these things will be healed if we stay focused and do the things that will keep our bodies as healthy and fit as possible. And in order for that to happen, the goal is to pay attention to what you eat, focus on how you feel, and then adjust as necessary. Now, this is a link to the Wellness Squad. You guys want to come over there and join me? We can talk about this more away from YouTube. I love having you guys in these conversations because, again, it gets me thinking, it keeps me on track. I love answering your questions. And most of all, as I say all the time, the more people I can help, the happier I'm going to be, right? Because you're very welcome, John. I sorry, Brian Biscuit, sorry, you're very welcome. I appreciate you. The happier I'm going to be because I want more people to know this information. Like I said, please share the video. Check out the videos that I have linked in the description. They're going to help you keep progressing. Also, the video from Thursday that caused me to make this video is there. And have a great day. I'll see you next Monday, 11:20, for another chat about whatever I'm going to be talking about. I don't know yet. We'll talk to you next week. Okay, bye.